Joe Bonamassa vibe, is it?
No, the Minneapolis Home and Remodeling Show presented by Smith, Cole, Stucco, and Stone, January 30th, February 1st at U.S. Bank Stadium.
Home and Remodeling Show.
Plan your visit and save on tickets at MinneapolisHomeandRemodelingShow.com.
Common Man here along with Chenaby, excited and delighted to be joined in studio by Minnesota Star Tribune. I affectionately call it the Fish Wrap Factory West columnist. Esteemed columnist Chip Scoggins and fellow Woodbury. How are you, me boy? Thanks for coming in.
I'm doing good. I don't know about esteemed, but I am a columnist.
Well, you probably get people's steam sometimes. A columnist has to put his opinion out there, and people don't always agree. My first question for you. Were you on the it's okay to let Sam Darnold go, we need to see what we got, or because I keep liking to remind people when they let him walk, I said, well, you have the franchise. Every team is searching for one. He's in your building. Why are you letting him go? They did. We all know the trials and tribulations of 9, and we see that Sam Darnold had a really good performance against the Rams. Now they're going to the big game.
Let me see. There was a column from me that just posted at Star Tribune with the headline, I was wrong about Sam Darnold, dead wrong.
Okay.
I did my mea culpa today. I was in the camp that I believed in the plan of having a young quarterback on a rookie contract, and those last 2 games made me nervous about committing more money to him, and he proved me wrong. Yeah. He proved me wrong. Yeah. And so I just thought the plan that they had in terms of turning it over to JJ, building up the infrastructure around him, taking that money that you would spend on a veteran quarterback and putting it on offensive line, defensive line, all that, and fortifying all the foundation around him was going to be enough. And you give him to O'Connell, and he could coach him up, and everything will be fine. And it was the wrong play. I mean, that was a veteran team. They committed $300 million plus in free agency to that roster. That roster was built to win this season and contend this season and be relevant in the playoffs. And you took where they erred was they miscalculated how much or what his floor was or how much looking back at it, not having that year of practice and developmental time. Because we had that 5-week stretch during the season where all we talked about was mechanics. Mechanics. This is wrong, that's wrong. Clearly needed another year on the field and not just in the quarterback room watching and learning. He needed to be able to have the reps and work out, refine his mechanics. And so, in hindsight, you franchise tag him, pay the $40 million. Probably would have cost you 2 of those free agents that you signed. Probably 2. Maybe 3, but I would say more like 2.
And the 4 of them weren't really game changers anyway. I mean, you don't know that going in. I was all for the guys they signed. I thought, you have players that have proven they can play in the league. They've made impacts. Yeah, they're coming off injury. They're a little older, but you're kind of playing for this year, maybe 2 years. So why not?
Yeah, I mean, they had resumes and injury history too, and wrong side of 30. But you felt like, okay, for a team that's built to win now, and you're trying to do the best you can to build around JJ. But if you had franchise tagged him, it was just a series of miscalculations, not franchising him, overestimating or not having a plan B if Daniel Jones didn't re-sign here. I think they thought they had that worked out as buttoned up as you can have.
Yep.
And then they didn't have an alternative, and what they were left with was just not nearly adequate enough.
There were those that were saying, I read it in a couple of different places, that said, if Duvernay doesn't return that punt, we win the division. Now, when, you can play that game. You could also say, well, if the Bears don't blow with, a 3-score lead in the fourth quarter. And if you look back at some of those Vikings games, and I didn't dissect them, but there were several close games they won that could have gone either way as well. And let's face it, if Green Bay and Minnesota were playing, if that game would have meant something to Green Bay,
they're not sitting
Jordan Love and the whole team. Yeah. So, but, And that was, that was another topic was, there's that passive tanking you talk about.
Sure.
The coach said, no, I want to win games because I think it's a building block for the following season. I know you can't look at players in the locker room and say, guys, we're tanking. I need you to play as badly as you can. Yeah. But a coach can dummy down, play some guys that, are backups and stuff like that. They can try to, and not tell guys to lose. Hey, play as hard as you can. If we win, we win. But we're gonna see what we have on the roster. I don't know if that's the smart thing to do. I sometimes felt at the time with as bad as they were that maybe getting a fourth place schedule and getting, instead of drafting at 18, if you're drafting at 12, that might be better.
Well, I understand that philosophy, but the way I looked at it is like you need to try to build something with JJ. Obviously, you need to get him in a better spot at the end of the season than when he was early in the season, and players pick up on that. Like, are you really going to say that to Harrison Smith?
Right.
We're going to sub you out and we're going to play other guys. Or are you going to say that to Justin Jefferson? True. I mean, you want a player revolt. That's what would happen. I mean, these players, that's the one thing I will say about that locker room. There's a lot of pride, a lot of professionalism with this group that they were not going to just pack it in, even though the playoffs were long gone and the season went the way they didn't think it was going to go. And so I don't think that O'Connell, even if it was subtly, just saying, I'm going to sub here, sub there.
Right.
That would have been sniffed out quickly. Now, did they finish in probably the worst possible spot? Yeah, the lowest spot for a non-playoff team in drafting. But I still think it was important to try to build something and create some positive momentum for McCarthy, especially going into the offseason.
So where do you think the quarterback situation stands? The Vikings, I don't think, have said anything publicly that I'm aware of that. Like, McCarthy's for sure our number one guy. There's a speculation. You bring in a veteran. Do you bring in the veteran as a backup? Do you bring in the veteran to actually compete for the job? Do you go out and try to make a blockbuster trade for Joe Burrow or something? Yeah. What what's your guess or anything maybe you're hearing?
Well, I know the Joe Burrow and the blockbuster trade's a fun talker. I just don't see that happening. I think that's it might be a little bit in that 2%. We'll keep it at 2%, but I don't think it's really realistic. They need to bring in competition. They need to bring in someone who can either push for that starting job, or if he doesn't win it, you feel comfortable, because with JJ's injury history, you have to find a guy where you say, you know what, he may have to play 8 games.
Right.
We just have to go into thinking that might happen because of what we've seen to this date. So is that Malik Willis? Does he get a starting role? Is he above that tier? I don't know what that looks like or who, the names of, but I don't think you can come back, and nothing we've heard from them since has said, as he's a starter.
Right.
As we sit here today, unequivocally, he's a starter. And I don't think he's earned it. He hasn't done enough to earn that vote of confidence yet. Not to say that, I know some people are ready to turn the page already. That's nonsense to me. You have to give him time. You got to give him patience. But I think you have to have a much better quarterback situation than what they had this year, because Max Brosmer was not ready. And if JJ's going to get hurt, you have to have a quarterback that you feel like can step in there and play at a certain level that's going to be representative of a team that's trying to get to the postseason.
Yeah.
Well, maybe they did, and you got hurt with Carson Wentz.
I still think you go higher than that.
Sure.
Yeah. That is,
But I mean, you're saying Max Brosmer's not ready, but he was also the third quarterback.
He
most
wasn't
teams
meant
third
to be.
is.
He wasn't meant to, if you most teams, if you get to the third, it's a lost cause anyways. Right. But yeah, it's. Do you go with that veteran? I think you aim higher than, we're signing this veteran. You're the backup. There's no ambiguity here. Yeah. You're the backup. If something happens, you're coming in. I think you need, and it'll all be about how Kwesi and Kevin O'Connell sell it to whoever the quarterback is.
Right.
There's a chance. We haven't named a starter. You have a chance to win it. Like, I think that needs to be the goal. Trying to find that guy that you feel like, hey, he might come in and win the job, and he's our starter.
They're not in a great spot, right, for in other positions as well. And just, it just doesn't feel like, when O'Connell first got here, they had that terrific season, and they took the step back, had another great season, 0-2 in the playoffs, and then a lot of hope for this year, and it didn't go well. Where do you think that whole O'Connell and Kwesi, Kwesi's caught a lot of heat for not, the drafts have not been the best, let's face it.
Well, it sort of feels like they're back to the competitive rebuild to me, where sort of in the same situation where when they first got here, they had a number of veterans that they had to make decisions on. Who do we bring back? Who do we jettison? Because their salary cap situation is not in great shape right now. They're going to have to get under the cap and let some guys go, restructure, cut, however they do it. And so the fact that they have missed on so many draft picks has forced them to rely so heavily on free agency. Worked great in 2024, not so great this year, but that's not a blueprint. You don't want to keep doing it because you're always old. You may miss. Contracts are more expensive, but that's because they've had too many failed draft picks. That's what they've been forced to do. So for sure, this roster needs to get younger.
Yeah,
and you got some draft picks. This is the most important draft for Quasi. They've got to get this right because this roster has to get younger. I mean, there's still the nucleus when you look at Jefferson and the guys that.
If Darius Hawkins stays in the field.
The foundation players.
Renard and Van Ginkel.
Correct, and Cashman.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's not like they're devoid of talent, but it's just they need to get younger, and they're going to have to figure out the quarterback situation.
I know your fave is college football. We had the national championship.
How about that?
Yeah, and so I want to get into that on the other side of the break for the next segment because I want to ask you, does Indiana being literally, I think, they had the worst historically for all these most losses of any college football team, Division I ever, and yet they go 16-0. They turn it around in 2 years under the Signetti character. If that gives hope for other universities like the University of Minnesota, or is it more complicated than that? We'll talk to Chip about that on the other side of the break here on the Common Man program on the Fan.
Bulls fans, join us January 28th at the Rose Mountain Legion. It's a Michelob Ultra watch party with KFAN's Max Fuller, 7:30 to 9:30 p.m. with trivia, prizes, and drink specials. Get the details at KFAN.com. Keyword calendar. Also, the Fan wants to give you a shot to win bonus bucks with our national cash contest. Enter the keyword check at KFAN.com now for your shot at winning. The keyword is check. Enter now at KFAN.com.
That was my fault, Tenneby. I should have thrown the tease or the cash thing to you. Yeah, but I should have said, by the way, and I didn't. So I'll that's like a false start. So Indiana wins a national championship. It was the playoffs were, I didn't watch every game, but the Ole Miss was a great story.
Mm-hmm.
What's
Lane Kiffin leading?
Yeah, Lane Kiffin leading, saying, "Hey, I'll coach the team though if you want me to."
They want to do that.
Yeah, they said, "No, we'd really rather you don't." I actually, at the time, sort of said, if I'm the school, I go, well, yeah, you may as well. I mean, that's what happens in football, and you are the coach. But you got us here, so why? If you're willing to do it, let's play it out. But it seemed, for what I've read, what I've heard, I don't think the players really were. They felt a little deserted, I think.
Well, I would too. And if I was a school, if you're leaving for because you think there's a better situation, we're good. We'll handle this ourselves. They almost did.
They almost did. Well, they became, I think if you didn't have a dog in the fight, it wasn't one of your alumni or you were an alumni of one of the schools, or you didn't have a connection or like a school. I think I was pulling for Ole Miss the whole time.
Well, my wish the whole time was Indiana because of just because it's Indiana. This story.
It is a great story.
But if they didn't win it, I want to be Ole Miss because of everything they went through. But Common, I wrote this in Common a couple weeks ago, but I went to the Gopher Indiana game in Bloomington in 2021, I believe it was. And
I read this piece. We
get there 3 hours before kickoff, and I'm looking around. I was like, do we have the right stadium?
Right.
Is there a game today? We got the right day? There was no one there.
Yeah.
And I think they announced 38, but it was late November, mid-November. It was cold, miserable day, and the fans had moved on to basketball season.
The stadium was empty.
Yeah, and to think to go from that to this supernova program that became just this unbelievable story, to go undefeated and win it. To me, it's the greatest turnaround in college football history. It has to be.
Yeah, I can't think of another. The college athletic landscape obviously has changed completely with NIL and transfer portal and all that.
And rev share.
Yeah, and revenue share. And so then I wonder to myself, because I know the Cuban character, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
He went to Indiana. He gave him, I don't think it was a boatload of money. I heard it was 5, 6. No, I'm not saying that's not a lot
I think
of money.
more this year than the first
right.
year. Yeah.
And so, is this sort of like Major League Baseball now? Really? I mean, there is a cap, I
Very
guess.
much like, yeah.
But is there a cap? I mean, because that's what I don't. You have to tell me if I'm a booster, can I say if I'm Mark Cuban, can I go here like Phil Knight? Is he given more than $6 million? I mean, can
Yes.
you go?
Yeah.
Here's $100 million for your athletic department
There's a cap on the revenue share.
on the revenue share.
This year is $20.5 million
Right.
per school, and they can divide that how they want. Now, most of the Power 2 conferences, and maybe even Power 4, gave 75% of that $20 million to football, so about $15 million.
Yeah.
Most of the big schools were given $15 million. There is no cap on NIL.
Right.
Now, excuse me, individual deals have to go through a clearinghouse.
Yes.
I can't say, hey, Common, I want you to do an autograph signing. Here's $5 million.
Right.
You can't do that. That's
Right.
going to get flagged. But there's no cap. And,
Yeah.
and if you look at it, I forgot the exact number, but Texas Tech, I think, spent $40 million reportedly, $45 million on their roster between revenue share, which, $15 million there, and then you supplement it with NIL. And that is, like, it is a money game now. I mean, it's when kids are going in the transfer portal, first thing they're asking is, used to be, how quickly can I play?
Right.
Or who's at my position? Now it's how much are you paying?
Right. And so Signetti obviously deserves a lot of credit. There's
Great
no
coach.
question about
Yeah.
that. Great coach. And was it James Madison? And he brought a bunch of his players.
13.
So, yeah.
13. Yeah.
So that's a decent amount of players that you're bringing from a school that I can't think there's a lot of other Big 10 schools, or I call them Big 18 schools, that were looking at James Madison kids and going, boy, I sure wish we would have had him.
No. And he knew him, but he knew that they fit. Yeah. And so he brought 13 with him. And then, obviously you get Mendoza from the portal from Cal. And I think they paid him $1.5 million, maybe $2 million. I think their center came from Notre Dame. So they really struck gold in the portal in terms of the James Madison guys could play at the Big Ten level. The portal guys obviously were a big help. And that's the thing. People are always say, well, if they can do it, why can't we do it? Right. Well, if it was that easy, everybody would do it.
Yeah.
You need money. Obviously, Indiana, I don't know if people would know this, but they're not the top in terms of NIL and
Right.
but they're pretty well funded.
Yeah.
And Mark Cuban's money obviously helps that. So it's not like a team that's just, the little engine. I mean, they're pretty well funded. You got to have a great coach. And Signetti obviously is, I don't think people, that casual observers knew about him in college football. I didn't know about him, but everybody does now.
Yeah.
That guy is a very, very good coach. And you have to be right in the portal. You can't have misses. Particularly at a school like Minnesota, you can't have a lot of dead money. You can't go out in the portal, pay guys, and then have them sit the bench and not be good enough to play, which happened in a handful of cases for the Gophers this year where they paid guys and they just didn't contribute.
Do you think that this does give hope that this is something you look at if you're another team and go, look at Indiana, did it, why can't we?
Well, it does because I don't think there's any question that the transfer portal has brought more parity to college football. I mean, you just look around, it has. You can plug holes. If you need a quarterback, you don't have to rely on a freshman. You can go out and get a senior grad transfer. Max Brosner, we saw how good he was for the Gophers. You can plug holes quickly. And so it is, the talent has been spread around more. And so the portal's made it more accessible and more, I don't know, easier is the right word, but a chance to really take a leap from one year to the next. But it costs money, and you got to have the NIL. You're not going to attract a lot of high-level kids from the portal if you're not willing to pay them. So it's a combination of things. But, yes, the transfer portal opens up the possibility if you're willing to spend money to upgrade your team pretty quickly.
Randy Johnson covers the Gophers for your paper, and he was writing about the Gophers have been busy getting players out of the portal and transfers and this, that, and the other thing.
Yeah.
And he mentioned that they're plugging some significant holes. The question though I always have on that is, I don't think Minnesota's getting the kind of players that Ohio State would get for the most part, unless you grab, you get a diamond in the rough or coach them up, or you get your B level type players, coach them up to A level. I just don't know how much, you plug some holes, but are you plugging them? Is it just a sideways step? Is it a step?
Yeah. You're not going to outspend probably those blue bloods for players, but you got to be able to identify, and it's hard because recruiting is one thing, the transfer portal, speed dating. You may only have a matter of hours to make a decision on a guy if he's going to fit both on the field and off the field and be a contributor for you. So it's speed dating, and you've got to try to be right. So they're not going to necessarily outspend people, but the thing that they've done is obviously Coy Parrott's left, and I don't think Minnesota's ever going to be in a position where you just kind of shrug when a really good talent leaves the program for somewhere else. But I think it's fair to say, it's just a guess, but I'm guessing he would have been $1 million player for him, right? Well, $1 million on a safety, I think I would take that money and put it on my offense and defense line, and they've done that. And that's where they have to be smart about how they allocate their revenue share and their NIL money.
Some of those other teams, they can get those big linemen anyway. They want to play at the helmet school.
Or they can pay both.
Or they can play both. That's exactly right. Yeah. You wrote over the weekend about Fred Hoiberg in Nebraska. You talk about, hey, if they can do it at Indiana, why can't we do it in Minnesota? If you can do it at Nebraska, why can't you do it in Minnesota? They're 20-0. They're undefeated, and they're not doing it with smoke and mirrors. This isn't luck. This is a good basketball team.
Yeah, and look at Freddie's first 3 years. First season, 7 wins.
Yep.
Second season, 7 wins. Third season, 10 wins. They were not filling the barn when they came here after those first 3. I mean, there was questions about, like, what's going on here? But they showed patience. I talked to Freddie. They had a really, a pretty significant rebuild, and you went through COVID. And so his administration stuck by him and said, no, we're standing by you and let you work your way through this. And they're being rewarded for it. And, I mean, to think that Nebraska's 20-0 in basketball, and they're good. I don't know if you watch them. They're really good.
Yeah. Well, I watched the second. I missed the first half. I turn on the TV. Gophers up 6 at the half. I'm going, hey.
Yeah.
And they were just completely.
They ran out of gas. Yeah. And then Kate Tyson got hurt. And that's the thing about I'm really impressed with Nico Medved and what he's doing in his system. He just needs more players and upgrade the town. But they're kind of running on fumes now with all the injuries. But yeah, with Freddie, what Nebraska's doing, they got some guys out of the portal. The kid from Iowa is their leading scorer. He's averaging 17. Really good player. Probably going to be an NBA player. So if you can develop young players and supplement it with really good portal players, it can happen.
Well, you talk about nil money. There's a kid on that team that you and I know very well, Kendall Blue. Mm-hmm. Kendall played at Eastridge, really talented kid. Went to St. Thomas,
3 years.
Played there. Now he's with Nebraska. I'm told by a source I trust that they think it might be upwards of $400,000. Do you think?
I think you're spot on.
And
that's what college basketball players are getting.
But he's not even playing.
That's what
he came in at the end of the game, and they gave him some time, and he made a 3 at the very end of the game. But it's like they got that kind of money for a guy that's, and Kendall's a really good player, but he's riding the pine for them right now.
And look at that's what college basketball players are getting. I mean, they're making 6 figures. Some of them 7 figures. I mean, that's just how it is.
Why wasn't I born?
I should have been good at college. I should have been good at basketball.
Well, I was going to say, I wish I would have been born 20 years ago when I was 6'8". Gosh, it'd be a pretty good gig. We'll break. We'll come back on a couple more topics to talk with Chip on the other side of the break in our last segment, right here on The Fan.
Monster Jam rolls back into U.S. Bank Stadium February 7th and 8th, and we got your tickets in. Check out the contest page at KFAN.com to see how you can win a family 4-pack of tickets to the February 7th show. That's KFAN.com, keyword contest to enter today.
Chip Scoggins in for one more segment here. Appreciate you coming in today. I do on a cold day. It's hard to go out. It
wasn't bad today.
No, it's not bad. It's actually warming up. So, probably the toughest sell in town right now is the Minnesota Twins, right? Yeah. I mean, is there any more difficult sell?
No. And I was there Friday. We had the media kickoff luncheon that they have every year. And that's part of a group interview with Tom Pohlad. And I left there and I told, a couple of the writers I was talking to, and then even someone connected to the team, I said, if I didn't know his last name, I would tell you it came across as genuine, came across as contrite with everything that happened, came across as sellable. But his last name's Pohlad.
Right.
And it's just such a uphill climb that they face. And I credit Tom because he went through kind of a litany of mistakes that they made with the putting the team up for sale didn't go through, the trade deadline, the not investing after the playoff appearance. And he said we stubbed our toes. And then if you combine that with things that were maybe out of their control with the economics in baseball, with COVID and different things, he said this is where we're at and we have to be better. And he told me that story. I don't know if you've seen it, but he got a list of season ticket holders that didn't renew, and he had 50 of them. He went through the list and he called all 50 of these people. Just, hey, why didn't you renew? Can we, do anything to try to get you back to the ballpark? And so one guy hung up on him 3 times. He thought it was a prank call.
Right. Yeah.
So he actually texted him, and I think he said one person said, when you raise the payroll, I'll be back. But it'll be the greatest upset, if they can get people back on their side. But I said this: how do you? I asked him, do you think you can win back fans? He said yes, and I said how? And he said all these things I've talked about, and I'm rolling up my sleeves. But you know how you win back fans? The answer is in that sense: you got to win.
Yeah, you got to win.
You got to win.
Well, what else I guess I can say I admire about Tom was in the news conference they held when he first became the guy that was going to be calling the shots. It was, and I think this was from your paper. It says, I saved these paragraphs because I thought this was important. It says, Tom Pohlad is succeeding his brother Joe as the family member overseeing the Twins organization. Tom said, it's been hard on our family. This decision to make a transition within our family has been extremely difficult. It's been hard on the relationship between Joe and myself. It's been especially hard on my dad and my 2 uncles. All Joe ever wanted was to be part of this organization and lead it and help this franchise win a world championship. Things change. We had to make a decision as a family. He understands. He's been graceful, kind, and believes that whatever is in the best interest of the organization is best. I thought being that forthcoming was because you could have easily said, Joe's just decided, I really want to run the club. Joe says, hey, I had my chance. Go ahead. A brother, do it. But they're basically saying they butted heads about it. It was hard between the relationship to him, but they have to make a decision. Yeah,
I found him incredibly sincere. It was... I think the messaging is going to be better, and I think he understands that they need to be able to express what they're doing, what they're trying to do in a better way. And I think with what happened with Joe, with the right sizing and the different messaging, it fell flat at the time of where they're at. And so, he's been honest about this has been an uncomfortable situation for our family, and it's not ideal, but we had to make. Look how many millions are they in debt? What was it, $400 million? They couldn't proceed if they were going to remain owners down that path, and they realized that. So, but again, I think the messaging is better. I think obviously Tom is going to be more visible in terms of giving that message. But actions have to be part of it, right? You've got to spend money and you've got to win.
Their nucleus is okay, but it's not very large. It's Buxton, who is just, this is the first time, other than one other year, that he stayed healthy and played like the player everybody predicted he would be. Yeah. Lewis was at one time, I think, the top-ranked player, not just in the Twins organization, but all of baseball. He started out really well, but he's fought injury problems and has been as good. But those are your 2 players you're kind of building around. There's a couple others. And, of course, that pitching staff with Lopez and Joe Ryan. And remember, Joe Ryan last year was none too happy with the organization. He was pretty frontal publicly about that he was not happy with the direction that the franchise was going.
And after the deadline, his performance, he was clearly disgruntled by what happened. Yeah. So, but he just got a new contract. Was it yesterday? I think it saw and
they made
arbitration.
Between,
So, they're gonna. Tom said, this is not a rebuild, it's a reset. Well, it looks like a classic rebuild, right? I mean, it's phrasing there, but they're going to need some guys to outperform what their expectations are.
Yep.
Now, if they can get some of these young guys that are in in St. Paul,
Walker Jenkins,
those guys, if they get here and can provide some energy and a boost and all those things, that will help. But it looks like a tough year where you're trying to win back fans.
Wild's all in.
Yeah,
with the trade for Quinn, but they got to stay healthy. But yeah, they got a hell of a roster now.
Yeah.
They're and as Teneby and I talked about, and Russo and everybody else that follows it closely, it's like you're kind of stuck right now. You're probably going to play Dallas, which is going to be a tough one, and then if you get by Dallas, you got to play the Lanch probably.
Oh, by the way, you got to play Colorado.
Right.
Yeah, it's. I hate the format. I'm sure that's been mentioned on this show a few times about the format, but yeah. I guess you have to hold your breath and hope they all come back from the Olympics healthy, right?
Yeah,
That's the one thing that I would, if I was Billy Guerin, I would be nervous that a Boldy or, somebody comes back with they get a significant injury there. So hopefully that didn't happen. But yeah, it's, they're built to win.
Yeah.
And so, but their division's obviously very tough and you're going to have to go through Colorado at some point. So,
and, people are discussing, as Teneby has brought up a number of times in the show, they'll probably get another player because now is the time, because with Kaprizov's contract kicking in next year, and then if you're going to keep Quinn, you're going to have to give him money. So they got money right now to spend. So if you're going to do it, you go ahead and try to get a guy either, they talk a lot about getting a frontline center or, at least a forward or somebody.
I would be stunned if Billy sits still.
Right.
I feel like there's still another move out there because there's just so many moments where you feel like, okay, we can go for it.
Yeah.
And I think this is one of those moments.
Well, and I feel the same way about the Wild and the situation they are in, the way I did when the Wolves with Conley, when he made the blockbuster trade for Gobert. At the time, I said, I don't know if it's going to work, but with the history of this team and as bad as it's been, I'm willing to try anything now. And it worked out pretty well. And then the Towns trade, you get Julius Randle's become a completely different player since injury last year. He played really well what was left of last season. And this year, he's been a team leader and been really, really good. There was that piece in your paper about how he's really found comfort and peace getting to the gym early and really, where he's been, where he's going, where he's at, that kind of a thing. Just, really finding his way in the NBA. And, and with Ant, I mean, they've got talent. There's no question, but
they're thin.
They're thin.
They have to add to that roster.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think you can sit still at the trade deadline. Their bench, other than Nas, now Bones Highland had a nice game last night, but he's hot and cold.
Right.
They just don't have enough. And so Tim Connelly has to go out and make a move. And I think point guard, ideally, but even if it's not that, you need a wing. You need a veteran. You can say, you know what? Every night he's getting us 12 to 13 points.
Yeah.
Every night.
They need bench scoring.
Yeah, they need another guy. They're just too thin.
And, if they can do that, I get annoyed sometimes. The comments came out again after this 5-game losing streak. They finally snapped. Saw a piece, interview, a post game with Ant and a couple of other players. And it's like, sometimes it just seems like the other team's trying harder. It's like, well,
you hear that all the time.
Yeah, I know. But I think it probably happens with other teams too, because you'll see other teams say the same thing. I guess each team is sort of just kind of, if you're a top 6 team, and right now the Wolves are. They are. I checked the standings this morning. Yeah. They are number 6. If you're a top 16, you're a nice spot, because the Wolves have proven, even with a 6 seed, you can get to the conference finals. They did it last year as a 6 seed.
Yeah.
So I think you just kind of, it's almost like trying to stay healthy, trying to win the games that you have to win. When you're playing other contending teams that are on your level, you want to maybe send a little bit of a message and get kind of get a feel for what you're about. But it's like, I don't think they can miss the playoffs, barring total collapse or some bad injuries. They'll be in it. It's just a matter of how far can they take it.
Yeah, and I wrote a column last week after one of their losses. I can't remember which one it was, but I looked at their record against the teams that were the 5 teams ahead of them in the playoffs. They were 3-10 this year. Now, against teams with sub 500 records, they were 17-5. Mm-hmm. Now, they weren't always dominant in those games. They kind of tend to just, do enough to get by. They don't bury teams like you see the Thunder do a lot. The Thunder just come out, take
right.
So I think that's where the fan frustration gets in a lot of times, that the Wolves will play just kind of lackadaisical for a stretch and then turn it on and win the game.
Right.
But look, Ant, Randall, McDaniels, I mean, they have high-end talent. So are they just going to turn on a switch in the playoffs? They're good, but here's the thing. It's one thing to beat the Thunder, on a Tuesday in February, or the Spurs. Can you beat those teams 4 times in a 7-game series?
Yeah. And that's what's happening.
I just think they're too thin right now. I think they need another player before you can say yes.
In both the last 2 seasons, they've had appearances in the Western Conference Finals. We're both 4-1, or was one 4-2? I know. The Mavericks was 4-1.
Yeah, was the Thunder 4? I can't remember.
And I think the Thunder might have been a 4-1 too.
Yeah.
But that goes to show you that they're equipped to get to the finals. But boy, when they would meet that other team that got there to see who goes,
and they're just preparing for you. They're not just coming in on a back-to-back or whatever. They're preparing for you.
Yeah.
That's a totally different thing.
Back to the NFL, it'll be talked about a lot. Who do you like, Rams versus New England? 2 really good stories. I mean, New England, I think I've seen New England win enough in my lifetime, though, and I know it's a different regime and all that as Brady's gone. But
I'm pulling for Darnold.
Yeah, I think I am.
I'm pulling for Darnold.
Well, I know I am. I'm pulling for Sam.
I did this in my column. At the end of last year, before the playoffs, I went around the Vikings locker room, talked to just dozens of players and coaches, and I just said, give me your best Sam Darnold story or fun fact. Yeah. And the thing I took away was how much they loved him. Yeah. Like, he was so popular and so well liked inside the locker room just as a guy. And
you're hearing that in the Seattle locker room after the win this past Sunday.
He just kind of has that personality, and it was genuine. I mean, you could just tell that he was, and staffers had told me that privately, like, he's really, really well liked because he's just a good guy. So I'm happy for him. Yeah. I mean, we all, myself, we doubted he could win a big game, and boy, he played just spectacularly against the Rams in the title game.
He had to, too.
Yeah, he had to.
Because as good as that did, and that goes to show you how good the Rams are.
Yeah.
That Seattle's a top-ranked defense, and it turned into, we got to outscore them. Yeah, and they did. And, as much as I like Sam and wanted the Vikings to keep him, you were still, because, like, he had 20 turnovers this year.
Yeah.
He fumbles and interceptions. So as they're playing that game, it's like, well, Sam's got to take him down the field again, and you're thinking to yourself, is this the time he's going to throw the bad pass? But he never really threw. He threw maybe one pass that could have been picked. A couple were off target. But 3 different times, he released the ball. On his 3 touchdown passes, he got hit hard on each one of them. He stood in the pocket, tough, and he made big-time throws.
And I just think it'd be such a great story for a guy who was able to bust and had so much struggles early in his career, and to rediscover himself and find this kind of renaissance and go out and win a Super Bowl. I think what a script, and for a guy who's a really good dude, and people that, someone that people like.
Yeah, and again, they echo that in the Seattle locker room. So I don't think it was just
tell me what I want to hear.
Yeah, right, in the Viking locker room, because they said in the same thing. They said, we love Sam, he's one of the guys, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
We trust him, we play for him, he plays for us, that whole thing. What I also like about Darnold is, after Rodgers won a game against, must have been the Jets, and he said, yeah, it's kind of nice to beat an organization that didn't think you had any football left. They tried to get Sam to say something. Strahan did it on the stage. It was done in other places. A lot of people doubted it. He just said, I don't think about that. And maybe he's just taking the high road. I suppose somewhere deep inside of him, he's thinking, well, I was kind of surprised the Vikings didn't offer me a 3-year whatever kind of a deal, but they didn't, and that's all fine and good. But he took the high road completely and didn't say anything about, I showed them, like there was a revenge motive or chip on the shoulder or anything.
We heard none of that either last year. And when he first came here, I mean, it was pretty buttoned up. He didn't give a lot of long-winded answers because I think, if you're in New York and you have a tough media experience there, excuse me, it's hard. It can, it can make you kind of retreat. But as the seasons went on and he was playing well and he got to know the writers more, he became, I think we saw more of his personality, but never did he say, what do you think about me now?
Right,
None of that stuff. It was always positive. It was never boastful. He was a genuine guy that, hey, I found a good situation. I'm improving. I'm trying to, be the best for my teammates. So I really appreciated how he handled it and how he's handling this, because human nature would be like, boy, people call me a bust, and look where I'm going to the Super Bowl, and none of that.
Yeah, and they all kept bringing up the I'm seeing ghosts thing. That mic that caught him, the hot mic that caught him saying that. The other side of the field's a good side. I mean, it's another quarterback. It's Darnold was the one we let get away. Yeah. The guy on the other side of the field is the one, by all accounts, they wanted badly. And actually, if you believe the reports, and I tend to, the Vikings made a pretty sweet offer to try to get.
I think they did
to get a little further because they wanted May and they wanted him in a bad way, and you can see why. The kid's got a ton of talent.
Yeah, I remember I covered the Gopher game when they played at North Carolina. I guess it'd been his senior years last year there, and I left there thinking, holy cow, this kid is incredible. He could. Third down, it felt like they were in 3rd and 9 to 3rd and 15 all game long, and he completed every pass. He was just so accurate, and you could tell why he was going to be a high draft pick. And yeah, I think the Vikings, from everything you hear, they really, really loved him in the draft process and tried to move up. But if you're New England, if you feel the same way, you don't mess with it. You just take your guy and believe that your evaluation's right, and he's going to be your franchise guy. And the NFL is so weird because this year 2 for him, he's going to a Super Bowl, and you sit here and think, man, he might have 7 of these.
Yeah.
And he may not get back.
Yeah, that's the famous Marino story.
Yeah.
Marino went in his second year, and he has said since then, he goes, I thought I'd be going to all sorts of these, and he never got back there again. Yeah. All 4 teams were pretty good offensively, and, Nick's got injured. And the Stiddy story would have been a good story. Yeah. And it looked like it might be unfolding on that second possession when he throws the 50-yard strike and then the touchdown pass and they're up. And then they decide not to go for the field goal, and they end up losing a game in really bad weather. But I think all teams were very talented offensively. Obviously, Seattle, L.A., Denver, and New England. But all 4 teams were top 10 ranked defensively, too. And the 2 head coaches are both defensive-minded coaches, Vrabel, right, and McDonald. And again, that's because forever people have been saying defense is out in the NFL now. It's all and we do have more offense now, and it's because fantasy football and that's what people want to see, and they protect the quarterback more. But boy, defense still means a lot. And you got 2 coaches that really focus on defense. At least that's their claim to fame. They were defensive experts, so to speak, and both those teams are in the big game.
Yeah, and you had that run where McVay had that early success as a young coach. He's an offensive guy, and everybody's like, wow, let's find the next Sean McVay, right? Find the offensive guy, and that became the fashionable thing. But you're right, it's the tale as old as time. You got to play great defense to win a championship, and you've got to win in the trenches. And if you watch the playoffs, I think the quarterback play has shown up, but as much as anything, you better be good in the trenches, and you've got to play elite defense because there's just going to be times where your offense doesn't have it, and your defense is going to have to keep you in there, or you may have a cold weather game where you got to create turnovers. So from the Vikings' perspective, getting Brian Flores to stay and re-upping him, that's a really, really good head start on your offseason.
I think some of the thinking is Seattle probably, and they are the favorite right now, because they just feel like that New England won't be able to outscore Seattle, which may be true, but the Rams just put up 27. Now that's with one of the, a surefire Hall of Fame quarterback who's won before. He's really, but still, May's really good too. So I'm not so sure that it's just like, well, Seattle's just going to outscore them. That New England defense is really good too. And I think we're going to see I hope, on paper it looks like it's going to be a great game, and I hope it is. I don't like blowouts, especially in the big game, but I think it should be a really close game.
Yeah, I do too. 2 great teams, well-rounded teams, but it will be fascinating to see how May handles it and how Darnold handles the pressure. Now, Darnold looked like a cool customer, obviously, in the NFC Championship game, made it too, but Super Bowl. Yeah. And all that comes with that. How are you, it's not like these are 2 veteran guys who've been, these are, a young guy and a guy who's,
well, they talk about guys playing with house money. Like, what's Darnold got to lose? He was giving up on it. Now look at him now. But still,
it sounds good until you get there.
Yeah, until you get to that game and you're going, and like we just said, you may never get there again. So you're like, no, I want that next step. And I got to be honest with you, as much as I like Darnold, and I think those ghosts he was seeing, I think he could star in a sequel of Ghostbusters, because I think that's gone. But still, if he has to get that ball late in that game and drive him down there, I'm still going, God, he's got 20 turnovers this year.
I know,
even though none in the last 2 games. In the playoffs, he hasn't turned the ball over. We're just wondering, could he turn that ball over?
You you win that game, then it probably completely goes away, right? Yeah. And I think I think the narrative got chiseled a lot away with how he played there because there was no turnovers against a really good defense in a tough situation where he had to make plays. It wasn't like he was just, game managing there.
No.
He had to make big plays.
No, he had to make big plays
on his shoulders.
There was a stat that said all 3 of his touchdowns passes, he got hit on each one of them. I mean, it wasn't like he was just standing back there looking and just bouncing around and go, oh, there's a guy, and throw it to him. He had heavy pressure, was getting hit, and he still made the perfect
I remember the one that was in the middle of the end zone where he's backing up and the guy's at his knees. And he just kind of, he has a strong arm. So, it'll be interesting to see how they handle it. 2 great defenses. I still think Seattle, I just think they're a better team. So I'm going to go with him. And the Darnold angle, I'm rooting for him.
Thanks again. Appreciate it. Good to see you. Thanks for coming in. We do appreciate that. That's Chip Scoggins with Minnesota Star Tribune, Fish Wrap Factory. West Side, you can read his stuff there every week. Teneby, thanks for having me.
Great job, and great job to Chip.
Yes, and we appreciate you listening and sharing time with us today. We're back tomorrow at 12 noon. Mark Rosen will be with us at 1:15. It'll be Brian Oak and Rock Talk. Big Ticket and Brett Blakemore there next year on The Fan.
Well done, young man.
Adios, au revoir, auf Wiedersehen. Good night.
Good morning, good afternoon, and good night, Minnesota!
And good night, folks. And good night, Mrs. Calabash, wherever you are.
Listen back to any of Common Man's programs by podcasting on the iHeartRadio app or KFAN.com.